You froze.
Wait,
Yeah,
is it going? All right,
I
done.
think it's going now. I forget how we start this. Okay. Welcome to this week's edition of Word of Truth podcast. This is Jordan.
And this is Jared.
Uh,
And this week, over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about communication. We talked about communicating with God. We talked about communicating with one another. This week, we're going to carry on with that discussion of communicating with one another, focusing in on how, using kindness as a tool to build the bridge of communication. However, before we get to that, I want everyone to congratulate Jordan on becoming a new father, proud father of a baby girl named Layla May. So if we weren't here last week, and it was because of that. Super exciting times, but glad you're back.
yeah.
So, yeah. Round of applause in the background. Woo, studio audience. Yeah, so we're talking about kindness this week. And so a quote to kind of get us started that I found and kind of got my mind thinking in this way was kindness is spreading sunshine into other people's lives regardless of the weather. And so kind of got me thinking because I just moved down here. I don't really know anyone. There's a lot of days where like you could say it's quote unquote stormy weather where I'm missing home, I'm missing my people, I'm missing, having connections around me. Um, and so one of the things that have really stuck out to me though is the amount of kindness I've been shown and grace I've been given while I've been down here. And how that's really helped to shape how I picture my time down here so far. Because on one hand, you have it's like, it's hard, it's sad because I don't get to be with my family. But on the other hand, then you have the amount of kindness I've been shown being the sunshine kind of working its way through that, helping to create a bridge and a community around me of people who, as of 3 weeks ago, I had absolutely no connection with, knowledge of, to where now they feel, almost like family for some of them.
And for me, I have to say, and tomorrow for the sermon, I'm going to make a note. We'll have a card, but just the amount of kindness that we've been shown up here by people we've known for years and years. Uh, Ever since we came home, we've had somebody bringing us a meal every other day. But and I laugh because I don't think people realize there's just two of us. We brought home another person, but she can't eat this food. Seriously, there's so much food. It's like they know every other day we're getting food, so they're like, let's make sure we give them enough for the week. you know, how we always make fun of like mom, how she makes fun of Mamaw because it's like, well,
Cooking for
Mamaw always cooks for an army, and then mom always cooks for an army. Jade made us macaroni and cheese last night. I kid you not, the tub she brought us was like this big and like this deep. I had two bowls. We had just a little corner, like not even like a whole square, just a little corner of it. Like there's just so much food, and people have done so much in making sure that we have everything that we need as we start this and new chapter, and with diapers and wipes and clothes for her and everything else. So kindness definitely goes a long way in building this bridge to have communication between two people.
And it does really well at getting both people on kind of, I want to say the same page, but more so I think agreeable terms, because you can both be in kind of different states. But it opens the door. And I think that's the biggest thing is showing kindness opens the door for you to enter in and be the sunshine in that person's life. Say if you're doing, like for us, say we're trying to present someone the gospel, if we're trying to be a Christian, helping others see what Christ has done for us, the best way that we can do that is showing the kindness that we've been shown through the sacrifice of Christ, and showing that to someone else. We can bring that sunlight into their lives no matter where they may be in their walk. And it's
Well, and
through
that's
this
where
that we open the door.
one thing I wanted to throw in here, as I was kind of preparing for this, what I thought of was Matthew chapter 7 and verse 17. I'll read it real quick. It says, even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. Now, this speaks specifically of false teachers. But when we look at this, we can understand that what Christ was saying is you're going to know who people are and really get to understand them by seeing the work that they do and the fruits of their labor. And I know for me, like, I'm pretty open in stuff that I share about myself. Um, and it's not hard to, you know, have a friendship with me and to build a bond, but I have to see that there is reason to trust you. As it is with everybody. Everyone needs to feel like you are trustworthy, that they can count on you. And it's not in this time, it's no longer your word is enough, which is unfortunate. Your word is not enough to show people that you are trustworthy. The words of others about you are not enough. It's only by your actions that you can start to build this bridge to then have that communication or that line of communication. And so if you want to, show people that you're kind, that you're trustworthy, that you care, and that you love them as Christ loves all of us and came down from heaven to sacrifice himself for us, as the Father loves us, then you have to demonstrate that first. Time, and it might be several times that you have to be kind and show kindness before somebody trusts you enough to, have a real conversation.
Yeah, and so there's two things I want to hit on. And so it's kind of like, so what does kindness communicate? Which I want to get to that in a minute. And the purpose of kindness, purpose of us showing kindness, and that's twofold. So first of all, as you're saying, it's to bear fruit. And so the bearing of fruit, when you think of a tree that bears fruit, is not for the tree itself, although it's beneficial for the tree itself. It's for the people around to be able to take of that fruit, to eat it, and for them to be, nourished or whatever from that tree and the fruit that is given to it. And we find that this is stated also in the Bible in Romans 15 and verse 2. It says, "Let each of us please his neighbor for his good, to build him up." So the purpose of us showing kindness is mainly to help that other person, to build them up and help get them on their way. However, there is a benefit to us as well. We find in Proverbs 11 and verse 17, it says, "A man who is kind benefits himself, but a cruel man hurts himself." So there's twofold to the kindness that we show. It's to help other people, bring them into Christ and show them that, we care for them, we love them, and that we acknowledge that they exist at the most basic level. But then there also is a benefit to us as well in that.
Well, and that kind of goes with the whole idea of you will get what you give. So, if I give and I'm kind and I show love to others, that is only going to make them want to also show the same to me. But if I'm cold, if I'm rude to others, they're going to be rude to me. I can think back to times where, I've helped out at the tax office for Aunt Rita, right? And taxes are not people's favorites. So when there's an issue and I don't, I have no idea how to do it. I was just there to, push paperwork and help make appointments. But I realized, if somebody came in and they were upset with something and they were mad, it never did any good for me to respond in that way. And having previous customer service experience, I knew that. So as I would be kind and show them like, hey, I'm trying to help you in whatever way I can to get you an answer that you need, their tone softened with me throughout. So when you are kind to others, right, it's going to help. One, in that situation, applying it to what you were saying, it's going to make them feel like you care and that you understand, and it's going to benefit them because then they can process their words and their thoughts to better enunciate what they truly need from you. And kindness, it's something that can be very difficult to demonstrate to others because of pride, right? Because we want people to do for us and we want to do what's best for us. But true kindness is doing what's best for other people, even if it's at the expense of our own good, so it's of our own means. going above and beyond for other people. And what that does is, like you said, is it's going to help you, but you don't do it with the intention of, I'm going to do this for you, Jaron, so that you will feel like you need to repay me. Right? That's not why Christ sacrificed himself for us. We want to do for others because we want to do for others. And then they are going to return that because they want to help us. You want to keep your mindset pure when you help.
Yeah. And it helps you as well because it gives you that sense of fulfillment, and it allows you to communicate effectively. And that's kind of what I found the benefit is. And that kind of is the transition point into talking about what it communicates. By showing kindness, you communicate a lot to that person. And if you do it right, you can communicate it extremely clearly to that person, the things that you want to communicate. And whenever I look at it, it's first, you're welcomed here, you're loved, and I'm humble enough to serve you. And those are like the three big things that I kind of have taken away from like the kindness that I've been shown recently. And it, you may add more to that list with, what you've been shown as you've had your new kid. But, you're welcome here. We want you to be with us. We want you to be a part of our community. We want to open the door of communication between me and you. And then we are concerned enough about you. We love you enough to want to help you along your way. And we are willing to put ourselves down and our pride to the side to help you, to help give the best to you. I didn't phrase that very well, but
and like here's I'm gonna put a name to all of this, for me, because this just happened yesterday. So yesterday was the funeral for May's daughter. Okay. Yeah. And afterwards, I went over to her house just for a minute, a day which is about her, okay, and her loss and what she's dealing with. And I go to her house, and what she's worried about is I'm about to leave. Well, I think you need to take some food home. Like a day that she should just focus on her and her family. She's having Kathy Flat prepare a plate of food for me to take home. Like, that's kindness. Even in these moments, you're not even thinking of yourself. You're thinking, how can I help this person? What can I do for somebody else? And, there's numerous examples from this congregation, from the congregations that you've attended down there. It's just, and it's one thing, it's awesome when you go to different congregations and you see others who are in Christ, who are faithful, right? You can almost always guarantee they are going to be kind. They open up their homes. They take you out to eat if they can't have you to their house. Like when you and I went down to Barnesville.
Yeah.
Like we were truly shown so much kindness. Like, when Brandy and I went down the first time, I can't tell you how many people offered to have us over. And they were like, our house isn't ready, but we want to make sure that you have somewhere to go. Like that's true kindness.
Yeah.
Being shown. And so like you said, what it communicates is much more than, well, here's, food for today. Right? It shows, and as you continue to show kindness, right, a true love for me or for you or whoever you are showing that kindness to. And when we talk about how we are to show the world Christ through us, the way that we do that is through showing this type of kindness, because you do see the love of Christ. And it can only be shown by those who are faithful and obedient to God, because then everything that you do is for the glory and in the name of God. So when you are kind to others, kind to those within your congregation, to those who are outside, who are lost, you are showing the love of God, because that's the God that you serve, and that's the reason for you going out and serving others.
And it's amazing the kindness that some people have shown. As you were saying, like with May, for those of you who don't know, May Robinson is one of the greatest people I think I've ever met. And so, like you said, she has lost her daughter, and to be able to put her struggle of coping with that to the side to focus on you first and foremost is amazing. Like that.
Oh, I want to tell you too.
Yeah.
So she showed up to the funeral home, and she was like having a hard time breathing because the mask and everything. And here I find out yesterday she was worried that she was parked too long at her brother or her son-in-law's house, that she wanted to help somebody else carry their stuff in, and in doing so tripped and fell on the stone, and she hurt her ribs. I don't know, she won't get it checked because she's stubborn, but
Kills May.
she still like showed up.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy. That's the only thing you can say. And that's honestly, and that's like for almost anything, when someone shows you that amount of like kindness, that's really the only thing that is left to say is that it's crazy. Like you can't understand it because like the amount of people who have opened up their homes to me or have invited me out to do things or have tried to build a community around me when I have none. It's crazy. Like why would you invite this random stranger to your house for dinner that you've met about 30 minutes beforehand and know nothing about? You don't even know where he's from, and you're like, all right, yeah, come on, we have dinner ready for you.
Yeah.
Stuff like that where like this is like showing Christ through you. Everyone thought Christ was crazy. You see these people, you're like, all right, I don't understand why you're doing this. You're crazy. It's the same thing. So, but yeah,
So one verse that I also thought of was, when we talk about kindness, it's a lot of it has to be first shown in your actions, but then you're not always going to be able to demonstrate your kindness to others through doing stuff for them, but it's going to be in how you handle situations with them by word. And Paul wrote in Colossians 4 and verse 6, let your speech always be seasoned with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one. So kindness isn't just something that you do or something that you say, but it's your complete self, right? You need to be kindness. You need to be the embodiment of this concept of kindness. And when you talk to somebody, you're going to have difficult conversations with people, and trying to teach them the truth and get them to understand that they are lost, they are in sin and in need of repentance and of Christ, right? That's not going to be an easy conversation, but like you and I have seen through college and stuff, the way you don't do it is by screaming, you're going to hell. That's not gonna work. But what you do is you season your speech with grace and with salt, and you make sure that what you say is kind and it's something that they are going to be able to digest and want to understand.
To provide context on that statement, that wasn't you and I doing that.
No.
The general audience.
No.
Like, I went to the University of Akron back home, and they had like this open public square, and they would have people posted there with literally signs saying like "You're going to hell," and they would stand there for hours on end and yell that at people, who would then get into a frenzy and start yelling back to the point where I think you were on campus a couple of times where they would have like they would need to bring in cops, like literal like Akron cops, and break it up because it was getting that far out of hand.
I'm glad that you specified the literal cops. I always thought it was the fake cops that showed up.
Not campus cops.
Like
okay,
mall cop.
Paul Blart showed up. They're like, all right, whatever. No, like, legit city of Akron cops though would show up, not like campus cops or anyone that doesn't have a ton of authority. But yeah, so like that's not the way to do it. That's not showing kindness, and that's a good way to burn a bridge, which could be another discussion. But good way to burn a bridge, communication, but not a good way to build one, just because it's missing that key element.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you don't say what needs to be said, right? You gotta,
you say it with tact though. Like,
yeah.
Say what you need to say, but you show kindness and you show grace in trying to say it. You, as you mentioned earlier, you season it with salt. You don't just go out there with a dagger and start stabbing people with the word. You take into account where they are in their walk and understand that if you do this wrong, it's not going to go well. you're going to burn the bridge before you even built it. So
And
keeping
that
it,
might erase every opportunity after this
yeah,
by anybody else, not just you, but anybody else who comes, in the name of Christ to try and teach. If you're not careful, you could do some real damage.
yeah. So, well, if there's nothing else to be said, I have two verses that I kind of want to end this discussion on, unless you have anything else.
Well, I thought I would kind of bring in Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5, where Paul said, "Let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus." Right. And it talks about being humble. So put your pride aside when you're talking to others. Um, if they get heated, put your pride aside. If they attack you, put your pride aside. Right? Christ never took any personal attack on himself. Now, if it was to defend the word and defend the truth, he stood firm. But any attack on him, people spit in his face, right? You don't see him just calling down 12 legions of angels, right? He handled it. So let that mind be in you. Let that kindness be in you that was in Christ Jesus.
And with that, two verses that stuck out to me that I kind of wanted to end on is whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life, righteousness, and honor. And this is in Proverbs 21 and verse 21. And then as well in Romans 12 and verse 10, a call to action for us to love one another with brotherly affection, and let's outdo one another in showing honor. So just the mindset that we should have as we go throughout the rest of this week into next week and on through the rest of our lives, be looking to outdo one another and showing honor and showing kindness and showing brotherly affection to each other, and understanding that in doing so we will find we'll find life and honor and righteousness along the way.
That's a good point.
So, well, with that being said, we'd like to thank you all for listening into this week's edition of A Word of Truth podcast. We'd like to give you a friendly reminder that he who has ears to hear, listen up. We're getting there. At some point it'll click, but until then, who knows? And as always, have a great rest of your week.